Welcome back to the Nesman Hockey Podcast. James and I were just we're just talking about. I surprised him with I just got a New Jersey in the mail off the eBay, and I'm getting James' live reaction on this just because it's incredible. Um, aren't '90s jerseys the best?
Yes, they really are.
Like
People have been
just the
asking
absolute best.
me people have been asking me what I want for Christmas recently, and I'm not asking them to buy me, really expensive jerseys, but I find myself gravitating towards like t-shirts that have all the 90s logos and stuff on it. So I
100%.
that jersey that you're wearing, I want it to be my skin. That's how nice it is.
Yeah, it's incredible. Oh, like over. So for those listening, it's a probably like a 95, 96 Syracuse Crunch jersey. And it's got teal and purple, and the white jerseys are actually incredible. I just couldn't find one. The colors just pop. It's
Oh,
beautiful. And this is their old logo and all sorts of stuff. I'm just a hipster. But if you look over what is my right shoulder, you see the goalie masks from I believe like the '96 season, which includes like the old Anaheim Ducks. I'm sorry, the Mighty Ducks, and the Islanders, and it has this teal color. And I'm looking in my closet, and I have the Fisherman jersey. I have this one. I have my Ducks jersey, and I have a couple Ducks jerseys. And I'm like, this teal color is just it's so good. I love it. That's like the purple, and I'm thinking of all those teams from that time period and how ridiculous their jerseys looked. Even in the NBA, like the same color schemes kind of popped up everywhere, and oh man, jerseys were just so much better then.
like that teal Pistons jersey. Like how good was that jersey?
Yeah, like
Or the Hornets jerseys were so good.
I think that's the one I'm really thinking about is the Hornets jersey. I mean, it wasn't really wild colors, but the Orlando Magic had cool jerseys. Um, Now, like as far as hockey jerseys go, I'll say I think my favorite active jersey might be, and it's probably because of the name, the Orlando Solar Bears.
Oh, those ones are awesome. Yeah, I love those.
Those are incredible. Easily, I think the best jersey, active jersey in hockey right now. That wasn't like a throwback or some mix up thing. That's like 100%
Yeah.
their jersey.
All right, so
Um,
wait, this brings me to a question about jerseys, and there's a current one in the NHL that I want to know. You know where I'm going with this already?
I think so, but I want to hear the question.
How do you? Oh, okay. Hold on, because there was a couple things that happened recently that I could get to that real quick though. I don't know if this is what you were thinking. What do you think about the Ducks jersey that they're wearing this year?
Oh, it's cool.
I
I the purple, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's as much as I would like them to use the more retro thing, it's good or good enough, right? It brings a lot of that style back. I'm very for it.
I agree. Like a lot of people were dogging on it because it wasn't the original logo, and I fully understand wanting that jersey back. It should be. However, this one is so clean in its own right, and the color schemes are perfect. And despite it not being the original logo, um, that was at one point like at least an alternate logo, the front facing duck mask, and even if it was just like for like merchandise or something like that. And I love those jerseys, man. I want Anaheim to ditch the black and orange so bad, and just I even those would be fine with me. Like if they went full time with those. Yes, I think that the Mighty Duck original logo should be the jersey, but the
Oh,
ones that
you're
they're
right. Yeah,
yeah,
they've used this before. Like it's updated version of something.
yeah, that's what I mean.
It's good. I mean, cool. It's actually it looks like it's more from the cartoon than from the movie.
Yeah, right. So I really like the anniversary ones that they have this year. I know it's not popular, but I really enjoy it. Now, the one that I know that you're nodding your head to are the Winter Classic jerseys that got leaked
Oh,
very
that's not where I
strangely.
thought you were going, but let's do that too.
Okay, now I know exactly where you're going with this, but we can talk about this one first. Um, the you saw those jerseys, the leaked Winter Classics?
Seattle and Vegas.
Yes. So my initial reaction to the Seattle jerseys was perfect. They nailed it. Timeless. It's going to be beautiful on the ice. They could wear it whenever. Perfect. Great job. And then I saw Vegas's jersey and I said, "What the hell is that?" That was the weakest attempt. What they tried to do was that they tried to go Seattle's going the route of an origin story. Yeah, we're gonna try the same thing, and we're gonna say it's from something original in the Vegas lore. And no, it sucks. It's so boring. It's so bland. The V, I don't even like. I get Vegas sure for the V, but like, there's no, there's nothing that says like Vegas, right? If it was the V inside of the night in the original Golden Knights logo, I would understand it a little bit more, but it's not. It's not even that. So I don't love it. But
It it is weird looking. The
The
Kraken
Kraken
one, they
ones
nailed it.
nailed it.
Yeah, I'll say this about the Vegas Golden Knights, and I don't know how to make it not sound like I'm being a weird traditionalist and boomer, get off my lawn kind of shit. How many fucking jerseys do they have? They've been a team for 5 seasons.
Well,
That I think is like they should have went down to like what was the IHL team or what was like some other thing going on and
yeah.
incorporate that. And because there were some really cool jerseys back in the 90s. Again, as we were
Well,
discussing the start, I don't know what you're just like you're making up new things for this team without you're not pulling from anything. There's hockey history there. It's not like
they
it's
got
just
roped in
starting.
though. They got roped into two reverse retro jerseys, so automatically they had an additional two. Um, and then they created the alternate gold jersey because the originals were gray and white, which everybody loved, but the gold are pretty cool too. Um, so the obviously the home and the away makes sense. I think the alternate makes perfect sense too. Like you're Vegas, you should have some gold jerseys. But then they got roped into the reverse retros, which every team did, right? So and the red jersey was okay. Um, the I loved the and I don't traditionally love jerseys that have diagonal letters, but I loved their diagonal lettered glow in the dark Vegas jersey. I thought that was beautiful as a whole uniform. But these I don't and look, you obviously you're going in the Winter Classic, you're gonna get a new jersey. I don't love these. These are awful.
Yeah, there's the Las Vegas Thunder. I couldn't remember their name. Um, there's a way to incorporate what they did then and the new stuff. I don't know what it is. I'm not a graphic designer. It's not my job. There's a way to incorporate these things together because this is again you're trying too hard. Maybe if this was just like, hey, we've done a couple of these now. We're running out of ideas. Okay, I understand. But you've kind of done an okay job with all of them at this point. It's like it's just not anything special. What I wanted to talk about, and I feel like we've definitely I think people would know. I guess if you've been following along and taking notes or whatever, I think people know where we stand on the jersey and if we like it or not. The conversation that I heard recently was about whether or not they should do it at all, and it was the current Carolina Hurricanes doing the Hartford Whaler jersey and how the jersey really belongs to the city where it left. And it's cool to see again. They're doing the Coop rolls this year, which are essentially pants. And I'm sure they've updated the technology. I'm pretty sure they were banned because you would just slide across the ice and not be able to stop. Um, and Philly and a couple of teams, I think, and Hartford and a couple of other teams that did it. What do you think about that? Like, because the I think the Minnesota Wild did it right, incorporating the color scheme.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they could do whatever the hell they want because they're in Minnesota. Um, but like the Dallas Stars, they could have done the color scheme if they were really going to go that route. They really didn't need to because they have plenty of jerseys. They could have done the colors if the Wild didn't exist. They could have done the color scheme with their jersey, and that's the throwback.
Yeah.
But like Colorado did Quebec. That jersey looked sick, and that's not the argument. The argument is not about whether or not the jerseys are cool. It's should they be doing them. The Devils they're good. They're another good example. They took the Kansas City Scouts or Colorado
Yeah.
Rockies. I think it was both, one or both.
Yeah.
And they used their logo and just changed the color scheme. It's a nod to their past and their history. I think it's very cool. Hartford, it is just straight up this jersey. So I'm curious, like what are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely strange, right? Because we're not talking about, you know, we're not talking about the same franchises here. They're different franchises. So I get it. Like it was a relocation, but it's not the same, right? The Whalers and the Hurricanes have nothing to do with each other other than the fact that it was just a relocation.
Yeah,
Other than that,
it's like Winnipeg not having their records from the Jets, and that technically they belong to the Coyotes because
right,
that's the franchise that followed them. But it
right,
would be like the Phoenix Coyotes using the color scheme, which I maybe would look dope, a red, white, and blue uh, version of their jerseys or something like that as a nod to like their past. But that team, in this case, it's also weird because the team still exists. Um, or like if it was like the Winnipeg Jets took instead of that city has a rich history of hockey that goes back decades and they have old jerseys, but they went the route of the Atlanta Thrashers instead. Like how weird that would be.
yeah,
No, you have a lot of options here.
yeah,
So it's how all of this works. And again, I'm not trying to this is not a get off my lawn moment because the jerseys are cool. And ultimately, I think that's what it's about. It is weird. I think I that's maybe where I sit is it's a little weird that they're just almost mocking these other cities like, hey, you don't have a team anymore. We're gonna use your jersey. And it's to sell them. It's a business. Like, fine. Um, I just thought that was interesting. It wasn't in our notes, but we got on the subject of jerseys, and I figured it was worth
there is
talking
another
about.
cool jersey out there right now in the NCAA. The Carolina Tar Heels. Have you seen it? You're muted, bud.
Sorry, I muted myself because my fireplace is on and it makes a little rattle noise with the fan. So I'm trying to and I went back to my old mic and it's picking it up and all of that. So yeah, we haven't done that. Is it so it's a D1 hockey team?
Yeah, and they took the Hurricanes warning flag symbols on the bottom of the jersey and like kind of wrapped it around theirs, but like in their colors. It's a really cool jersey if you could find it. I was just looking for it, but it wasn't popping up. Um,
Their jerseys are cool anyway.
the Tar Heels, yeah, they're pretty
Yeah,
cool.
the all white is a little much for me, but the I mean, it's like Maine. It's the same color scheme. It's the same as if anyone listening played PAL, Suffolk PAL hockey. It's a very similar color scheme to that. I like wearing those colors. It was very different for me. I can't find them here, but I'll definitely look after the show. But are we ready to talk about the Islanders?
Yeah, I sent them
We
too, by the way. They're in your inbox.
they're my bucks. Oh, you're a Twitter DMer. That's where you're always like, I sent this to you, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I don't see this anywhere. But I will look at that right now. Oh, that's cool. Oh, okay, that's very cool. That's a
Yeah,
very good
I'm
nod
very much into that.
to that. Um, are we ready? We have enough of a distraction. We can talk about the Islanders
Yeah,
for a
we went on a
second.
15-minute tangent here. We can do Islander stuff.
That's great. Um, so I'm off this week. I'm doing a lot of reading. I'm look through things. So I want to set the stage for the episode. And I tweeted it out. maybe you don't care about that. Um, I want to go through each of these sections and try not to step on our own feet as we move through this. So I want to take each section. This is more for you, James, than anybody else. Um, I want to take each section for what it is and try our best not to bleed into the next thing, because this is all purposely built on each section builds on the next things, and I want to make sure that we kind of keep that section, that flow going. So the intro that I had, which I think our jersey intro is much better, but the the intro that I had was that it's probably not a surprise to anybody that the Islanders have been just very okay this season. And that might even be generous, given the last 10 games. They're NHL 500 right now, which we know means they've lost more games technically, even if they've gotten a point for them in overtime or a shootout. Um, and the saving grace is that the Metro just has not been that good, especially not as good as it's been the last few years. On top of that, the Atlantic is also not as good. You have some teams kind of still figuring things out, and some teams are coming back down to earth, like the Red Wings, who started out really hot and haven't been. I believe they're 6-8-3 now. As you're listening to this, I forget what the record is. So wild card spots are also available. Um, so I thought that was important to kind of like set the stage of the season. And I know this was a topic on Twitter earlier today, about an article that was written, and how this is Shayna Goldman's article that we're gonna start with talking about, that said that they're 20% done with the season so far, or close to it, but they're at risk of losing the season. And I don't think that's wrong. She's ringing the bell. It may be a little bit of an overreaction. I don't think anyone wants to really believe that. And there's a lot of hockey left. 82 games are a lot. There's still plenty of hockey to be played, but the position they've put themselves in is one that they have a lot of catching up to do. So that's setting the stage. Did you have a chance to read this article?
Just bits and pieces.
Just bits and pieces. So I have just a couple of quotes that I want us to from the article. Again, you could disagree with some of the parts of it, I guess, whatever, but the facts that she lays out are obviously the truth, and is what's happening, the reality, not the truth. So I just something to kind of talk about. And I think it builds on our episode last week about the Islanders' identity and where they are, and what's kind of happening and what needs to change. Um, I read a couple of articles today, and it helped me kind of figure out what the problems ultimately were. I don't know how to fix them. I'm not an NHL coach, but at least where we can kind of get started. So Shayna Goldman, like I said, wrote a great piece for The Athletic. We have some information here. And some of it was how they're losing games. And I'll add one extra thing here. Stephen Rosner, Hockey News, NHL.com, he also laid out something that I thought was really important. So the main thing from Shayna's article was managing the lead, and how the Islanders simply have not been able to do that. They've been a team that usually starts slow and comes back. They were the comeback kids early last season. This season, she wrote, in all situations, the Islanders lead about 37.7% of the time, which ranks 9th in the league. And the only team that trails, and the team only trails 20% of the time. Only the New York Rangers and Boston Bruins spend less of their time facing a deficit. And then she goes on to discuss how the team is very porous defensively. Their bottom 5 team in both shots and scoring chances against, and give up about 62% of their goals, with the lead. 11 goals for and 24 against in third periods so far this season, 30th in the league. I want to talk about that. That's kind of a lot of information, but I do want to talk about that. What can change for the Islanders? Like, where does it start? Is it a coaching thing? Is it a players staying focused thing? What do they do here? Again, I don't want to talk about Lambert leaving, whatever news may or may not have broken the next few days. But what do they do here? Is like where does it start? How do they start fixing this problem?
Well, you know, the thing is, and I think we might have touched on this last week. I think Staples said it best. You can't hire a new coach right now if you're going to let Lambert go.
Yeah, and we that's I want to get to some of that later because we didn't. I don't think we really went over this. I think the Staple article came out right after. But yes, I just if you want to quickly glance over that, that's fine.
So, like, that person's just going to inherit the same problems that Lambert has now. You have to really, if your ownership, take a look at this team and say, is this salvageable? And is Lamorello the right guy to do that? Because clearly, and Shane has said it a couple times in this in this article that his methods are antiqued.
Well, that so she pumped out on this content. Um, the information I was talking about was from something else, and then she wrote and released not very long ago, earlier tonight on Tuesday as we record this, another piece, another full length piece just on the Islanders and Lamorello. So both articles very good. Go check them out. At least it gives you some context and some third party perspective outside of the people that normally write about the team. And read it all. I think it's worth trying to find the slivers of truth. But continue.
Yeah. So I mean, just my point is, how do you fix this? It starts from it starts from ownership. They have to take a hard look in the mirror and say, did we make the right choice? Continually, you know, putting our faith in Lamorello. Is this time for maybe a divorce? And I know the conversation has been heavily pointed to Lane Lambert, but again, this year is already 20% gone, like you mentioned earlier. How much recovery are you going to be able to make? We're talking potentially, if they can make a comeback, a St. Louis Blues 2019 type comeback here. It's going to be tough, so they have to seriously take I think the rest of this season to evaluate what they have, what's salvageable, and how to move forward best next. Because if you're not careful, you're going to end up in Sharks territory where you don't have prospects in the system. You're awful, and it's going to be that way for a really long time.
Yeah, I think the Sharks comparison is interesting, or kind of a team like the Penguins, where again they really don't have a lot of um, the future after the Crosby, Malkin, Letang era is going to be difficult. Dubas has a really tough job in Pittsburgh moving forward, and the Sharks are probably worse, right? Because they had a lot of veterans for a real long time, and they really milked them and went on really long runs, and it just didn't work out. And the Islanders are kind of they don't have the longevity that the Sharks had, where they were making it really far in the playoffs for a very long time. But they did have a few years of it, and now they're really far removed. I know last episode we discussed that it was the sample size isn't just 20% of the season. It really goes to last season too. Slightly different problems, but problems nonetheless about they were letting in goals earlier and now they're letting in goals late. They're letting in goals. The defense is too porous. Um, and the season before that, I know when I was writing this today, they missed the playoffs. And that was with Trotz. Now it was the first season at UBS and it was travel and it was this excuse and it was that excuse. But now looking back, knowing what we know now, I don't know that you can blame a lot of that stuff. I think it's a lot of the same mistakes and maybe maybe Lambert is trying to use the same philosophy, and it just got stale. Like you needed more, as we discussed when Lambert got hired. You needed more of a change behind the bench than they got. So you have Lambert maybe trying to hammer the same stuff home. He can't do it as effectively, and the players aren't responding. And that ultimately, you have a team that can really play for 40 minutes. And they I think what's really frustrating about managing the lead, essentially the title of this segment, is it just takes a little more focus. Like, it just takes being able to lock it down defensively again, and there's something missing there. Either the players don't understand something or the coach isn't stressing it enough. So I don't really know where things kind of go from here. The other thing, and this doesn't help, so this is like in combination of just in general, they can't hold the lead. The penalty kill is last in the league or second to last in the league. There it's at 69.5% kill rate, 31st through 17 games. What are you seeing? Because I think we've talked about their penalty kill before and some of the issues. What are you seeing from their penalty kill that are kind of some of the problems here? Because they're not disciplined, and I think that's a leadership thing and trying to figure out how to just, I don't know, play with a little more energy, but be able to rein it in when you need to, stick infractions and all, all sorts of different things. But what are you seeing on the penalty kill that needs to change? I have a
Well,
couple things.
yeah, I think you just said it pretty well just there though. Like they're lacking energy, and I think that's because this team is playing like way too reserved. They're afraid to open it up a little bit and be that aggressive. Obviously not forechecking on the penalty kill, but they're afraid to be that in your face, consistent pressure, grind you down team they used to be. They're more collapsed and hesitant, and none of their decisions are crisp or authoritative, and it's abundantly obvious. It's almost like, and I think we touched on this in a previous episode. It's almost like they don't understand what their system is. They don't really know the style of hockey that they're supposed to be playing, and it's bleeding into the penalty kill. And the penalty kill is just atrocious. Are we supposed to stay in the box? Are we supposed to, play, try to play some sort of man and leave the fifth guy behind the net? It's really it's tough to watch. It's certainly a tough scene because we're talking about a team that mostly made up of the same parts, at least on the penalty kill, was like one of the best penalty kills in the NHL not too long ago.
Yeah, and
So,
it switched, right? It was from the power play that was really bad, and now is, I don't want to say really good, but so much better, really good compared to where it was. And now their penalty kill is shit. And it was, so they've flipped special teams. I think it's their overall defensive structure that just isn't translating to the penalty kill. And I don't know if it's the assistant coach. Is it Hula? I can't remember the guy's first name. Um, Whoever the assistant coach is that presumably on
Huda.
Huda. Um, in charge of the penalty kill, it's just not working. Rosner did have some good notes on this. That on top of what I think my main thought is that I don't think they use the box. They use like a 1-1-1-2 situation, and it gives teams a lot of room up top and a lot of time when they're able to move that puck across in those seam passes across players and from one side of the ice to the other. They just have so much time because you're trying to outskate the puck. And we've talked, I think we even said this last week. Sorry that we're repeating ourselves. You can't outskate a pass. I remember coaches telling me that. And the Islanders on the penalty kill are trying to do that. They're trying to outskate a pass. And it just doesn't work. You see Clutterbuck or Cizikas or whomever hinging on the top and running back and forth across the entire width of the ice. And you're never going to get there in time. You're simply never going to get to that puck in time and put the necessary pressure on. So in addition to I think the overall structure, the breakdowns as Rosner pointed out is they can't clear the puck effectively, which I've definitely seen plenty of times. They're being lazy with clears. Puck is not high and hard off the glass. All the very basic things that everyone's heard that's played the game, or that even if you just watched it for a very long time, these are basic concepts that the Islanders just aren't doing. They're not taking the space that they have to be. Pellick used to be really good at this and be able to just step out from behind the net and not just throw it blindly up the boards as hard as you could, but actually finding the seam and throwing it up the ice. They're not able to clear the puck. They're flubbing passes, um, to the point where it's not a mistake. It's not a stick breaking. It's not a this where it's like, all right, it's a lot of bad luck. It's a little bit more than that. Um, they're not making changes. Um, they're not making positional changes based on where the puck is. Too often, they're worried about their position instead of how to adapt when the puck moves. So they're worried about being in a specific place rather than, okay, they're changing. It's like when you see in a football game when the offense makes a change and the defense adjusts. The Islanders defense just isn't adjusting to whatever the power play structure is. They're going out there with one thing in mind, and every team has a slightly different structure, and they're just not able to adapt. And I think that's on the coaching, doing your homework. How do they set up their other teams? How do they set their power plays up? How do you make those little tweaks? And how do you do that in practice and or in tape or whatever, so that your penalty killers know where they need to be on the ice and how to continually adjust throughout the penalty kill. Um, I think, as you said, they're not physical enough. I definitely agree with that. They're not getting that's in front of their own net. They're letting those seam passes across, um, and then the player's wide open. They have backdoor passes or whatever, especially in front of their own net. They're not nearly as physical. And that was something that Scott Mayfield was great at. I mean, he, for the most part, still is. It's not happening on the penalty kill. I don't know that maybe he's not out there. I imagine it's not going to be Aho and Dobson on the penalty kill. So I imagine it's the four guys, Pelech, Pulak, Romanov, and Mayfield. Um, you know, mostly really tough players. Pulak might be the one that's the least tough out of all of them, surprisingly. And he's not a small guy, and it's not a knock against him. It's just the other ones are I think, much tougher. It's just not like they're just not doing it on the penalty kill, and really they're not doing it 5-on-5. They don't have that energy, that not the hate. There's just not that desire, that hunger. They're missing something. Again, that was part of the conversation last week about their identity. I thought it's just really, I think, affecting their penalty kill as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, it's not an identity that we're used to seeing with this team
I
at all.
I don't even think there is one, and that's what we said last. That's what
Yeah,
we
we
said
said
last
that last
episode.
week. But the point is more that yes, there isn't an identity, but we're so used to their identity being so grinding and in your face and forechecking that this is like shocking to see. Not a step back, but like a jump backwards in whatever is going on here.
Yeah, it's like they had in other years and other iterations of this team over the last 10 years, they that was the one thread, that energy, that tenacity carried through no matter who was on the team. And it's changed dramatically over 10 years. But that tenacity just isn't there anymore. Not in this iteration of the team. Even Sezikis is slightly less noticeable in this respect. And that, the years have kind of caught up to him a little bit. It's to be expected. Um, I just don't know how they get that identity back or figure out what the new one is. Like it's as if they changed their style but didn't own it 100%. Like they're hesitating on being who this new version of themselves, and they're kind of like half-assing it because they're a little unsure. They're hesitating, and I think even Dobson said that in a lot of instances, that they're just hesitating. Um, and they need to be more comfortable. They need some confidence. They really need to go out and this week against the Flyers, beat them twice. That changes their fortunes. That the Flyers are ahead of them in the standings. It's 4 points. They're still really close. I think those are who knew that these games would be really really important. But here we are, and it's early in the season, and they have to play like it's March. They seem to figure it out, and like at the end of last season, for a change, they were really good. They really need to act like the end of the year is the trade deadline or something, because it just, like
Yeah,
you said earlier, it just can't go on much longer.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing, though. Like you're you're right. Like it's crazy to say that they've lost how many in a row and they're not out of it. So um it's if there was ever a year for the Metropolitan to just be wide open as it is, I guess this was the year for them. Because I mean, look, Washington's up there with 2 games in hand and 3 points ahead. Philadelphia, I don't understand how Philadelphia's up there, but they are. I guess they're just playing hard for torts, but they have the Islanders have a game in hand on the Flyers, so it's interesting. Like you tend to think too, some of these teams are going to regress to the mean. Like the Devils are going to get better, I think. Pittsburgh's in a bit of a slump here. I wonder if they're going to get better. Um, I tend to believe that the Capitals and the Flyers aren't going to stay this good, so maybe things are going to normalize. But that puts the Islanders in a situation where they're competing with the Lightning in a wild card spot, or the Sabres who are trying to make a jump this year. So they're in a predicament where they don't have that much time to sit here and evaluate. If they want to make the playoffs, they need to strike soon. If they want to figure out what their future looks like, then sure, mess around, or as the kids say, F around and find out. But I don't know, man. It doesn't look great from this vantage point right now.
Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 186 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York 467369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023, all rights reserved.
The holidays are the most chaotic time of the year. It may be too early to start decorating for the holidays, but it's never too early to start your holiday shopping. Why not take care of it now before the crowds and packed calendars make shopping a total nightmare? Especially when you can get some of the best deals of the season well before Black Friday. You can shop Raycon products right now and save up to 50% off because their early Black Friday sale is going on right now. Raycon's wireless earbuds are some of the best bang for your buck earbuds you can get on the market right now. Raycon first made a name for themselves in the audio space, with products like their everyday earbuds known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features, like a 32-hour battery life and a perfect in-ear fit for all-day wear and lasting comfort. And in this past year, they expanded their entire business with the introduction of Raycon Home and Raycon Power Tech. Their 5-star reviewed Magic 180 cable allows you to charge iOS, micro USB, and Type-C devices 8 times faster with 100-watt power delivery. Raycon is known for delivering high-quality audio and thoughtful features at half the price of other premium tech brands. It's no wonder their products have racked up tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. To get everyone in the holiday shopping spirit a bit early, Raycon is currently offering 20% off everything on their site with select products up to 50% off. So beat the crowds and save now. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on Raycon's early Black Friday sale. Hurry now to buyraycon.com/THPN to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score up to 50% off Raycon products. buyraycon.com/THPN.
So I think that from there, I titled this segment "Now What." So that I think that information, that discussion helps inform us for the next kind of part of the episode. And this will be aided a little bit by Arthur Staples' article that came out, of course, the day after we released our episode last week, kind of guiding us through this part of the conversation and what the Islanders should and shouldn't do. And you kind of alluded to some of that conversation. And I think this might take a little while, or maybe we've talked about it a lot, so who knows. Um, I'll go through the two just what Staples said they should do. He said bench the captain. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, he certainly hasn't played well, even in a decreased role, right? Because we've always said less is more with him. Um, but I don't know. I don't necessarily disagree, but at the same time, I wonder if it's just the inconsistencies here up and down the lineup. Who's playing with Horvat and Barzell, and okay, now you're playing back with Pajot, and you're putting him in all these different situations, right? You're an offensive player. Oh no, now you're moving down to a defensive forechecking line. The majority of your starts are going to happen on the fly or in the defensive zone. Nope. Now you're back up, and now you're starting all in the offensive zone again with Horvat and Barzell. And it's just, I think that's too much inconsistency in a player's game to continue to succeed. Now, granted, I get it. His price tag is certainly an issue versus how much he's producing. I get that. Maybe and sometimes I do understand. Like, look, you're not producing, you need a night off. Go take a rest, watch from above, study the game, and let's come back next game and reevaluate, yourself and see where you're at. I believe in that. So if they need to give him a night off, sure, go for it. But give the guy some consistency. What's his role? Tell him. Just because he's the captain doesn't mean he doesn't need a little bit of leadership too. So somebody needs to let him know what his role is now because clearly, look, if he's not going to be the 28 to 30 goal scorer he has been, then what is he there to do?
I agree, and it may come down to that conversation. And I didn't really think about that he's been moving up and down the lineup. I think that's interesting. Um, the way that I read it, and I think of some of what Staples said was that it also sent a message to the team. Um, and it's tough to play without your captain and see him in the press box, but it really just shows that I don't think a trade's going to happen. We're going to talk about Staples' opinion on that. Um, but it shows people aren't safe in a different way, and that the coaching staff and management are not afraid to do it. There's only so many you could do each night, right? So you're kind of safe, but you're really tanking your own career when you're playing poorly. And he might just need a break, or and a reset. A lot of players go through that. It's really not that big of a deal. Um, and Gauthier been thrown in there. Bashing's been playing on the fourth line. It's not like they're not that they're without these players. They have a little bit of wiggle room to give Lee off one night. I think it's hard to look at the roster without him there, and you don't want anything to go wrong in a game where he's not playing. Go, yeah, Lee would have been a really great player in the situation. So I think it's trying to time when you would even do that, um, and then kind of figure it out from there. Engvall against the Bruins, they could have used a little more speed, but I think the Bruins were just going to be better than them regardless. I don't know that Engvall in and out of the lineup was the difference maker necessarily. It didn't help, but it wasn't a difference maker. So you had to find that moment for Lee, for it to kind of be similar for him as well. Um, Staple also said reunite Pellick and Pulak. They need to shut down pair, and
Right,
clearly the pairs are not working.
right. And I think when you're lacking any sort of structure, like the Oilers, when the Oilers are lacking, what do? Throw McDavid and Draisaitl out on the ice. They'll fix this, right? And any other year besides this year, that was true. They need to try that, right? their defense has been so bad. However, we know that when Pellick and Pullock are together, at least historically, they're one of the best shutdown pairings in the whole league. Now, they've been split for a little while. I don't think they played much together even last season, but the season before they did. Um, so it's worth revisiting because we know what they can do, and clearly everything else isn't working. So what's stopping them from trying?
At least in third periods, or you have a lead. You're like, okay, we're gonna shut it down as a team. Pelican Pulak, you're back together. Like it set the tone for the rest of the team that way. Um, if you're lucky enough to be up after two periods, that's when you make that change. If you get a 2 goal lead in the third period, I'm not saying call timeout, but regroup the best that you can. Make that change and make that a in-game adjustment, not just for the sake of doing it. That's your strategy. You're gonna put your two best defensemen that play really well together, and you just need to kind of manage the rest of the other four, whatever that looks like. Try to figure it out. But it's most important that for a majority of that third period, you have both of them out there together. It's not enough to have them both out there a lot, um, 2/3 of the third period. You need them out there against the other team's best players. You need to be even if you're the away team, you need to be strategic. It just seems like everything's very haphazard. Um, I don't know whether or not Lambert is big on line matching and any of that, but putting that pair together, I think, would kind of go a long way. Um, This one I thought was interesting, and granted it was um, before Wallstrom. But it was kind of like in and out. He's been in and out of the lineup even as of late. Um, Stable said move Wallstrom to the top line. I thought that was interesting, but I'll get your take first.
The thing is, Wallstrom has actually been playing a little bit better. He's still not, what we anticipated him to be, with talking about, how he was going to be this stalwart coming into the season, right? But he's been playing better. Um, he's got a little bit of that snarl back. Maybe the top line needs that, but we also know that look, that shot, all he's got to do is get a puck on net, put the shooter with the distributor, and look, yes, Horvat is that guy too, but we've also seen he can play make a little bit. Um, he's been one of the best wingers for the Islanders recently. So you got to just go with what's working, right? This guy's playing well. Elevate him. See if he can stick.
He's just not playing well in his own zone. I think that's where he was and not the best stat in the world, but he's a -4 and then got the shootout winner.
Yeah,
I'm not
I think
sure how you elevate and reward a player like that,
I
right?
think
Where
that
Holmstrom is playing great. I don't know that that's
yes,
the right move necessarily.
I'm going through this right now with the Devils and Alexander Holtz, who's not playing well in his own end, but they elevated him. And the thing is, with his specific skill set, his repertoire, you put him around players who can carry the load, and his skill sets suddenly begin to emerge. And the guy's scoring. So I think that Horvat and Barzell can carry the load. You don't really need to play much defense when the puck is on the end of your stick. That might be the mentality there. And Wallstrom, all he's got to do is get open in the offensive zone, and one of the two of those guys can feed him. I think that's the mentality there.
Yeah, I think it's hard when Holmstrom's playing well. If he dips a little bit, I maybe you make that change, but they've tried it this season, right? Wallstrom's played on that top line.
I don't know if Wallstrom's played on that top line. I know Holmstrom has.
Right, Oliver. The last names are getting a
No,
little
I know,
confusing.
I know.
Yeah, but I feel like he's played up there. Either way, I mean, granted, Holmstrom did not look good uh, to start the season. It's really maybe the last 10 games where he's looked better and a lot more confident. At least the last few episodes, which over the last few weeks. He's definitely looked much better. Wallstrom's not even been in the lineup consistently. And this is without when Martin's been sitting, um, he wasn't necessarily in the lineup. Um, at least one of those games. I know he's in 2 in a row, but yeah, it's I don't know about that. He scored that really sick goal earlier this season, and before and after that, it's been crickets. He has 2 points. He's won 1 and 2 in 11 games this season. I I think putting him in the right situation is really important. I just wonder if he's going to play up to, and the argument that I made to you for 2 years, that if he's going to play in that top line, he's going to be playing against the other team's top defenders and shut down forwards. I'm not sure he can handle it.
It's a good point. It's possible, but at this at this point,
I guess
what
you try it.
what are you doing, right? Everything else isn't working either. So
Yeah.
you got to
I
try
may
something.
maybe it's Holmstrom and Wallstrom being in the lineup together at all. If Holmstrom isn't going to play well on the third line and he's thriving on the first, part of the problem is that Holmstrom's on the first line. It's like both of those players are fighting for one spot,
Yeah.
and you really just need to be. It should be Fashing or Gauthier on that third line, and if Martin's not going to be in, that means both of those lower level guys get in, and that's fine. I think again, as we said, they're just not owning anything. They're not saying this is our identity and these are the players that go in certain places. They just keep kind of moving players around a little bit, and I'm sure that's not helping kind of anyone's confidence or whatever. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. It's almost as if both of them can't be in the lineup together because they're ultimately fighting for the single spot on the top line.
Here's a question for you. Let me check the notes. Make sure you didn't write this down. No. Okay. So great for talk radio. I know. Patrick Line is going through it in Columbus. Healthy scratch. Just talked about how it's the most embarrassing thing he's ever experienced. Now, look, we can talk about what is the first move that the Islanders need to make. I don't think there's a commitment to Patrick Line in Columbus. I think that's part of the situation there. Do they just try that?
So I'll before I answer, I'll preface this with Staples said they should not make a trade. I don't think that means
Okay.
that precludes us from having the conversation. So I would say you disagree with that, given what you just said.
No, not necessarily. Um, I'm just wondering if, you know, a culture change could work out for both sides.
Possibly. I think there's a lot of moving parts. I mean, obviously, that's the type of player. I think that goes without saying. You're not really going to have to sell too many people. He has this year and 2 more at 8.7, um, which is pretty good. I don't know. I don't think he's an RFA still. No, he's a UFA at the end of it. Um, so it's not that long term of a commitment. He is still only 25, and he'll be 27, 28 years old at the end of it. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a player that you want. I think it's just a matter of is it the right time? You just got finished saying that the Isles cupboard is bare. Do you for a player like Line who has only his numbers have only gone down in the last few years. I
Right.
think it's really important to note that. Um, but thinking about his career holistically and what he's capable of, and he didn't just forget how to play hockey. Is that the type of player where you throw that philosophy out of the window that you can't throw away another first round pick and it's, do what you got to do type deal?
At this point, it's like I don't even think his value is a first round pick. He was just healthy scratched in Columbus. You're telling me he can't stay in the lineup in Columbus? He's not going to cost a first round pick right now.
That's definitely interesting. So I'm looking at some stats. Yeah, he hasn't scored 30 goals since 18-19. He scored 28 in 19-20, shortened season. Probably on pace for over 30. Scored 26 in 21-22, 22 last season. He has 3 points in 9 games, dash 6 so far. It's not great. It's not great.
Okay.
What remind me, if you can remember, what happened with him in Winnipeg to begin with?
Well, he just didn't want to be there. He wanted
Right.
to be somewhere else. He was doing okay there. But I think that he kind of got ahead of the. They didn't purge really, but they didn't necessarily have a right like a direction with that team that he wanted to be a part of. So he just wanted out.
I I was pretty sure that was it. And it's tough. It's almost like Dubois, and that was the original trade. All right, now that I'm saying things out loud, right? It was Dubois for Line. Was it straight up, which is insane to me? It was straight up, 1 for 1,
For Dubois, I believe. Yeah.
right? And they both needed change of scenery. And then
Yeah.
Dubois already moved on. He's in LA. And now Line also needs another change. It could be third time's a charm. His third team's a charm, and that's great. Um, while Lamorello is the GM, I wonder how much that stuff following Line around affects him even looking at a player like that.
Right.
Right? He's looking for players that are really good but have leadership, and it's bit him in the ass a little bit, right? You're there's only so many Bo Horvat types that are even remotely available. Um, at least not at this point in the season when teams everything's still so close. It's hard to know when are you just going to bail and recoup your losses or what. So it's not like there's a lot of players like that available until closer to the trade deadline when things are a little more straightened out. But forget about whatever the trade package would be. And I agree, he's been a 50-point player for the last 2 seasons in Columbus. Um, he hasn't played more than 60 games in over 3 actual seasons. Um, that he can control anyway. So, he's injured here and there. God, he was a minus. I know this is like we're using plus minus. Not the best stuff, but he was a minus 29 in 2020-21 with Columbus. That's terrible. I almost think there's no way um Lamorello would even look at it. Unless there's a deal he couldn't refuse. I I'm not sure he's the guy based on
I,
his standards, not because I think so,
I
but
could
because
understand that.
yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Um, what surprised me from Staples' article also is that he said don't make a call up. I think that's a difficult, much like a trade. I think it's a difficult pill to swallow. What do you think about that?
I thought it was an astute observation or point that he made in saying, like, look, there's clearly struggle happening organizationally, like up and down. You know, no one's really, you know, burning the house down in Bridgeport. Let them develop there, right? Yes, Iskakov is playing well, but it's not like, okay, this guy needs to be in the NHL right now. Well, so let them continue to develop in the minors. Don't bring them up to this mess just to get lost in this sauce. They need to, I think, as Staples said, continue just developing there and be put in a different situation when the time calls for it. Like, okay, now you're playing well and we're having success. We need a body though. Sure, here's your chance. I don't think right now is that time.
I also think in addition to that, the only player that can go through waivers, or its waiver is exempt, is Holmstrom, and he's playing well. So
Um,
there's almost no move that you can. I believe he's the only player,
yeah.
and so you're gonna send him down.
Yep.
You're
That's
not
true.
you're not adding to the roster in that way. I thought that I can't remember if that was in the Staple article or not, but that's what was thinking about afterwards. Was I agreed just kind of for a different reason or for an additional reason that you don't really have any moves that you can make, which I think is a Lamorello problem. I think it's interesting that you need a mix of young guys on the team, if only because it allows you to kind of send some players down. Um, I'm sure if they could send Walsham to Bridgeport to get a hard reset and just get some goals under his belt, they would have done it. But they just simply can't do it. So they're stuck. They have one guy that they can send down, and they shouldn't.
Yeah.
On top of the reason that you and Stapler are discussing, that let them do their thing, let them marinate. You don't need them to get thrown into this mess and have that kind of pressure. Let them continue to do their thing. I know they're not playing it extremely well as a team, but you can have some good individual efforts, and that's definitely worth it. Um,
Yeah.
the last shouldn't here, and then we're close to wrapping up here, was he shouldn't bring in a long term coach, and it's difficult, but I think there's an answer.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? You
No,
touched on it a little bit before as well.
again, and it's funny. I was actually talking to him about this. He was at the Prudential Center the other day, and yeah, he brought up some really good points. Like what what are you going to hire somebody new and just have them inherit this problem? It's like I said earlier. Like the organization needs to take a hard look at the 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 bones of this team right now. What can they pick apart? What can they put back together? And how can they do that the right way? Just because, again, you're not escaping these contracts. Sorokin 8 years, Barzell 8 years, Horvat 8 years, like all these long term contracts, you're not escaping.
It's really not that many at this point, though. I mean, yes, there's a few, but like Nelson's running out soon, Lee's running out soon. Even Pelican
Yeah, but
Pulak, I think they're here
Pelican
for a little while longer, but not
Pelican
like
Pulak have
2 years.
6 and 7 years left.
Left?
Yes.
I thought they signed those deals longer ago than
No, no, no.
maybe I'm remembering.
They signed years early. That's the thing. So they still have 6 and 7 years left. Maybe that's including this season, but I mean,
Even still, that's okay. That's I mean,
yeah,
5 plus years with a lot of players is something.
right. So you don't have the prospect pool to rebuild. You don't have any what sorry, well, what you do have on the roster isn't working. So you're in a tough situation right now where you don't have the flexibility to make these moves, right? Now, here's the thing, right? If they hire a coach this year that is permanent, what happens when they have the same outcome? Whose fault is it? Are you firing the coach again? Right? So it's like why hire a coach, bring in an interim, evaluate what you got, and move forward. Because look, if you look up and down your roster and you evaluate, like, look, maybe it's time to change things. I mean, look, you can elevate a rebuild. We saw it happen with the other New York team, right? They did this with Artemi Panarin signed. They did this with Mika Zibanejad there. Chris Kreider was still a member of the team. They literally put a letter out that said, "We're going to do some things that are going to make you uncomfortable." And they did it. And now here they are in first place in the Metropolitan. They were in the playoffs last year, obviously first round loss, came back with a vengeance. Got lucky along the way a little bit, although those draft picks, are they working out? Jury's still out on Kako and Lafreniere, but the fact of the matter is that they made some calculated moves, right? Traded Ryan McDonough. That was a bit of a shock, but they did it. right?
Stefan Lundqvist is gone. Like huge franchise players that were there for a long,
Right.
long time.
So I look at this team and I say, do they have as many pieces that could be helpful as part of an accelerated rebuild? And if you want to call it a retool, whatever. Look, are you going to like it? No, but Brock Nelson's going to net you certainly some sort of a return for an interested team. He's on a team friendly contract. I think he's got what is it, 2 years left after this season at $6 million, and the cap's going up. So you're talking about almost like a $3 million deal in the new salary cap when it goes up, and he could score you 30 goals. So go get a top end prospect with that guy and start rebuilding.
Yeah, I think what's really frustrating about having this conversation is that the team is I'm going to contradict myself a little bit. The team is good, but for 2/3 of the game. Like what they actually need to fix is I don't think it's the offense. I really think it's they got to try to find something on D. They have to there's something missing there. I think Sorokin is not playing um like a robot in a good way where he's unstoppable. Um and so he's playing humanly and they're not used to that. He's not bailing them out of games and the defense in front of him is not good. So they're not that's where I would concentrate it. I think the forward group for its faults are actually not that bad. Like
Well,
they're
no, and that
figuring they're
that's why
scoring
I'm
goals and
saying,
they can't protect the lead as a team.
and that's why I'm saying that they can do this the right way by taking that blueprint the Rangers did in however many years ago that was and trying it themselves. If
I don't
that's the
think it
route
needs to
they
be
end
that
up going.
I don't know that it needs to be quite that serious of a change. Like I don't know that it's even a rebuild on the fly or
So
anything. Like I really think it's just
so what do
there's a
you do?
you have to add to your D. I don't think it's adding to your offense at this point. They can score
Who's
goals.
who's the defenseman?
I
Who's
mean
the
that's
guy that
that's also like we said we joked last week. This is also not our fucking job.
well, that it's not our job. You're right, but I'm asking you, the the coach stays? Yes or no?
No, I think you bring in a guy like Boudreaux, who's only had a losing record with the Canucks in his last season before
Boudreaux,
getting
I think in the CHL, I don't know that they're gonna
uh,
let him go.
I don't know. Whatever. I think you figured that out. You're the NHL. I don't know. There's got to be a way to make that happen. Um, but he's had one season with a points percentage under 500, and that was his last in Vancouver. Players like him. He's been a good coach throughout his career.
Is
Management
he the new head coach or is he interim?
interim, and then you see what happens. They, you know, kind of do what they did with Wait,
Okay,
and they just
so
play out of their mind. Maybe you consider it, but at least you do it now. And I think there's a philosophical problem with the team. Yes, you need to add a defenseman too. I think the first thing is we've seen this team play like kind of good. This is again, it's a reversal from last season. So it's not the players, just the decor. It's not necessarily the players. There's something else happening. It's like the penalty kill. All of a sudden it's bad. The power play I understand being good. You added a whole player that's great and it spread out the two units a little bit better. Of course that's going to get better. The penalty kill I don't understand. I'm not sure. It's a lot of the same players. Something else is happening. And I think it's adding a defenseman, but I think it's the coaching
so
as well.
you if you're Lamorello, you're switching the coach to an interim coach and going out and getting a defenseman.
Something. I don't even know what kind of defenseman. You and I have talked about a two-way. I think it's a shutdown guy so that you can keep Pellick and Pulak together or keep them separate or whatever the hell you want to do and go from there. I think it's got to be some kind of shutdown. I know Zadorov's name's been thrown around. Um, I don't know about in any connection to Calgary. I don't remember that they've made a move. The Honors and the Flames have made moves together in some time, or if ever. Other than was it Hamonic, but that was feels like a generation ago. So I'm not sure who, but something needs to change. Whatever the makeup of the defense core is currently isn't working. Obviously you keep Dobson around. I think the odd man out is Aho.
Yeah.
That to me isn't working. The next one after that is going to be Romanov. Mayfield's here too long, but Romanov might be the seventh guy soon or something. He's the next one on the list. Your Pellick and Pulak are not going anywhere. Mayfield's not going anywhere. Dobbs not going anywhere. So you're looking at two of the guys. I think you change out Aho before anything, just to give you a different look, at the very least. And it's no one internally. Salo's not going to give you that different look. Grant Hutton, I guess. Paul Adu, maybe. But like don't make a call up. I think I agree with Staple there. Let them do their thing. Use break glass in case of emergency type deal. I don't know. You try to figure something out. Those two players are circled for me as I don't know about the problems, but maybe they're the scapegoat. It's just not working. So you have to do something. That's just the nature of building a team. It's not working. I can't do anything with four of them. You don't have to. And between the two of them, it's you don't have to be faster than the bear, just not your slowest friend when you're running away. You know what I mean? In their case, it's just don't be the worst of the two, and kind of see what happens, and who will get regular playing time. I don't know who the answer is though on the outside.
Yeah, I totally understand. I get it.
Um, I left room here for any kind of Lambert news, but that didn't materialize. Despite
Well,
everyone,
news was that he was on the ice this morning, which was, I gotta be
right?
honest, shocking to me.
I wonder if tomorrow's game or Wednesday's game is the last straw, and kind of like, can you win two in a row? Can you figure it out after time off and practices and all this? Are you capable of righting this ship? And then if not, maybe it happens right after Thanksgiving because they play just Saturday, right? Wednesday, Saturday,
Um, Hold on, I have the schedule right here. Wednesday, Friday,
Wednesday,
Saturday.
Friday. That's tough. I don't know. Do they play back to back? Do they play Saturday as well?
Yep, Friday against the Senators, Saturday against the Flyers again.
Yeah, I mean, God, on Sunday they should have won three in a row. If I'm being completely honest, there's no reason they can't win three in a row there. I don't. He can't make it to December if they're playing this poorly. They can easily turn this around. There's so much time left, but he can't make it into December if they keep losing games. They can't win two or three more games the rest of the month. They have to go on almost a little bit of a run here for as far as I see it for him to save his job.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's God, it's so frustrating to watch this team. It's because I mean they're losing in a different way. It just reminds me of the run and gun weight era Islanders. Again, losing in different ways than at that point, but just like you just see so much potential. Like they're clearly doing something right, and how they used to do something and What happened? We joked they didn't forget how to play hockey, but god damn it looks like it. Especially the whole team in their own zone. I don't understand what's happening. It's incredibly maddening.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not great.
no, a big game on Wednesday, I think. I know it's November. Um, but they can really kind of change their fortunes here a little bit. Um, and then it's 3 games in 4 nights. They can if they can walk away with 6 points. That's a really big deal. I think everyone changes their tune a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and not just to kick the can down the road, but you got to know what you have. I think if you're going to make a move and any of this stuff, if you actually are going to make a trade for a defenseman, you got to know where everyone is, even at their best. You know what they are at their worst, but you got who's actually stepping up. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's Romanov not stepping up, and Aho is all of a sudden for some reason. You got to find out who can be consistent or not, or who can raise their trade value or any of that stuff. Right now, I don't know who on the roster even has value, so it's hard to make any move when you don't want to trade another first round pick away again. In theory, your prospects who you have left, I don't know that you want to trade. You're in a tough spot. So the players on the roster have to raise their trade value if the Islanders even want to do anything. So the Islanders playing better to end the month does not mean that a trade won't happen.
Correct.
It could mean the opposite, that they've either earned the trade or there's actually value. People are seeing value in a player, and they can actually make a move and figure it out from there.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
We always end the episode saying we hope for better news next week, but
Yeah,
yeah.
this season of the show has been cross your fingers, and hopefully next episode is a little more happy-go-lucky. But yeah, as of late, it's been a lot of the same, and I'm trying my best to bring different perspectives in so that we can discuss it, because there's only so many times and be like they're not focused and they suck.
Right.
I'm not really sure where there's not a lot you can say. So bringing in some of these other pieces, I think is helpful for us to kind of break it down a little bit, even if they go against the grain of what we think. Um, but we'll check in next week after a few games, and we'll see where everything lands. Any closing thoughts here?
No, just you were right. This weekend by Sunday they could have won 3 games. I mean, look, Philly is hot right now. 2 out of 3 of those aren't going to be easy matchups, but they certainly are winnable because again, I know that the Flyers are playing well, but they're not they're not this juggernaut. They're just a team rallying behind a coach
He's out of his mind.
who's out of his mind. Right. So
Um, all right. Well, please rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, YouTube at Nassman Hockey. You can find James' work at New Jersey Hockey Now and the Fourth Period. James, bring us home. Bring us some luck here.
yeah, until next time, good luck, guys. Like, figure it out.